folks do want to have a chance to see this in more depth, you can own these and see them at any time. So without further ado, I'm going to go over some of the basics with resumes. And part of why you do this in the first place, even in this age of LinkedIn, where a lot of employers will go to check you out and look you over, it's meant to be a marketing piece. It's a marketing piece of you. So if you're selling yourself, if you're trying to effectively highlight what you can bring to an organization, whether it is a master's program that you're applying to or a job that you're applying to, these are the different ways that you can highlight what you've done and differentiate yourself from other potential applicants. So what it should be is a presentation of yourself, and it's meant to really emphasize the types of skills that employers are looking for. Ideally, it differentiates you from your peers and is sort of a highlight document. So unless anyone on this call has more than 15 to 20 years of professional experience, it is one page. It is not meant to be a litany of everything that you've done in your entire life, year by year. So you do want to make sure you're able to keep things somewhat succinct. And while I will share a template with you to go over, you don't want to make that word for word your own. So it's something that you can use as a baseline and then grow from there. So in terms of any questions that come in the chat, I wonder if you guys can just highlight to me out loud anything that is relevant to the resumes. Does that make sense? Can we do that?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes,
Right,
I will just pop in if there's
okay, great. Because I do find it hard to look at chat when I'm moving the slides along. All right, so that's why you need a resume. And then really before you start writing it all, it's trying to think about what your strengths are. And what we are trying to get you to do is put those strengths in terms of transferable skills. So I'm going to give you a few examples later in this presentation, but these are a few starter questions to help you think about what you could be putting down as a strength, whether you've worked in customer service or you have technical skills, problem solving skills, communication skills. Those are all of the types of things that you're going to want to be highlighting in your resume. And then if you are applying for a job, you do want to do basic research on the role that you're applying for, because then you can modify your resume a little bit to mimic some of the words they're using. So if the job description has excellent customer service skills, for instance, you'd want to make sure that you highlight that in your resume so that you're not missing major elements of the job description. So for the most part, all of these are available online. Since you're already zooming into this call, I'm assuming you have internet access, but lots of companies can also send you stuff if you call too. All right, and then in terms of accomplishments and results, one thing you want to do, if at all possible, is put a number on it. So instead of saying things like sold store credit cards, you would say increased customer loyalty by connecting customers with corporate card, increasing sales by 20%. So it's just about putting a number on it, making it specific, and helping the reader understand the goals that you were able to achieve. So if you were leading the team, share what you did. I'm sorry, I have a dog. And in terms of volunteer or community related experience, don't forget about that. That is huge for a lot of organizations to understand how you've been able to do things outside of work and outside of school. So don't forget about those. All right. And then, oh, sorry. When you focus on accomplishments and results, that puts it in terms of the bullets that you're using. So Duties and responsibilities can be helpful for context if you're in a role that somebody might not understand as much, but except for my job, for instance, my job's so confusing to explain, like, what do you do in career services? So I would probably have a header that explains a little bit about my duties and responsibilities. So sort of one sentence, but then I get into my results and accomplishments, just so that people understand what on earth this job is. You want to use data as much as possible. And then you want to use action verbs. So each bullet should start off with something that shows what you did. So instead of saying like, I worked, you would say coordinated, if that makes sense. Tiara, do we have a question?
Yes, I think one question, just like as we're getting started, is on terminology. I think Abdul has a question on what the difference between a CV and a resume is.
Absolutely nothing. CV will typically have more elements such as a picture, a little bit more in terms of demographic data. This is where you need to follow what your country is requiring. So in the United States, for instance, employers are not allowed to ask demographic data such as age, marital status, whether or not you have children, whereas in Europe and in other countries, in other parts of the world, they'll actually put that on their resume. So I would have a picture of myself and say, age 46, married with 3 children. You would never see that in America. So that's the kind of thing that you have to go country by country.
Great. Thank you so much. And also to everyone sending questions in the chat, this is the first slide of many, so your question may not be answered immediately. So just stay patient, and I'm glad that you're staying involved and staying in the chat, and your questions will be answered as we go on.
Absolutely. I'm so excited you have questions. I was saying to Tiara earlier, my students almost never have questions. So this is exciting for me if I feel useful. So in terms of those action verbs, I can also share a sheet later that we use with our students, can give you 30 different ways to say the word managed so that you're not using the same word over and over. In terms of making sure you're double checking the tense of the verbs that you're using. So if you had a job 2 years ago, everything under that job is going to be in past tense. And if you're still in a current role, that's the only time you can use words that indicate that you're currently in that position. One thing that sometimes comes up is industry-specific jargon, where you might be using acronyms or words that are just not generally understood outside of that industry. So you'd want somebody outside of the industry to take a look at your resume and let you know if it makes sense. So sometimes I see this with my veterans, my military students. They'll have some words in there that are not well known in the civilian world. So we'll have them explain them in a different way, just so that the people that they're applying to know what they did. And then you'll see this in the template that I'm going to show you in a second, but community and personal sections are a great way to connect with your interviewer, connect with the reader on something that is important to you, but isn't work related. And it shows that you are a well-rounded person and that you're interesting to talk to, since personality matters. And then if you have been to, and you've lived in a lot of different countries and you know different languages, absolutely highlight that. That is a huge skill to have on your resume. All right, so those are some of the components of a strong resume. Before you submit, I cannot tell you how many resumes I get that have typos or dates that are completely wrong. So you want to make sure that you just go through it and make sure everything is clean and professional. Have a friend or family member take a look at it. Just the more eyes, the better, making sure you don't have any errors. And then in terms of using those action verbs, this is just a quick example of where it looks a lot stronger to have those action verbs. So without it, I helped customers with their technical problems over the telephone. It's okay. It's kind of weak. With the action verb, provided excellent over the phone service to clients in need of technical assistance. So you can see how much more professional that sounds, just starting it with that action verb. All right, and then I do have a couple of different examples, so I'll walk through these. So this is around customer service. And you can see in the OK version, it's what you did. You provided customer service. The better version puts numbers on it. So if you happen to be in a really busy shop, sharing the numbers, the kind of customer numbers that you share every day is very important. And then let's say your work is not directly related to store income. That's okay. You can leave things like that out, but at least letting people know the scope of your role, it helps them better understand what you could be doing. Tiara? I like this works, by the way. When you come back on screen, then I know to stop.
Great. This is a couple of things that folks just wanted to touch in on, just so students are reassured. First is that we will be sharing these resources after the call, so please don't worry about that. Second question, a couple students are asking, and I know you have answered this before, but they're asking about having a resume that's longer than 1 page. So I know you covered that. Maybe you can just reiterate.
Yes. So your resume should not go over 1 page until you have somewhere between 15 and 20 years of professional experience. And that can be hard. I know for some of my students, they have lots of bullets on their resume that show progressive management experience, lots of different results. And those are things that you can talk about in an interview, but they don't all need to be on your resume. So 1 page until you have about 15 to 20 years of professional experience.
Great. Yes. So for everyone in the chat, I know you are all doing so many things, but please keep your resume to 1 page, both for your application to Crossroads and in future endeavors as well. Thank you, Kristen, for reiterating.
Yeah, I would say a good rule of thumb is if you're under 40, 1 page. Over 40, you probably have enough experience to hit the 2-page mark. All right, so I have a couple more examples of resume content to share. So in terms of,
I also think, Kristen, I don't know if the slides are stuck. We're still looking at the why do you need a resume slide.
really?
Yes.
You're not on resume content at all?
No.
Oh, I've never had it get stuck when on my screen it's, let's see. Do you see a red scribble?
Yes. I think that unfortunately I am not able to disable the annotations, but if
Let me
everyone
just stop
can...
share and share again.
Great.
See if I can get it back to where I was. All right, can you see resume content?
Yes, now we can see that.
Okay, all right, let me just get it to slideshow. All right, can you still see it?
Yes, maybe if you wouldn't mind, we couldn't see any of
back.
the slides, so maybe just a quick
I'll go back. All right, you tell me where I got stuck.
We were on the first slide. So.
The very first slide?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
I think this is a good place.
Like there? That's where you were?
The next slide.
Wow. Okay. I have a lot to catch you up on.
Right. Maybe I don't think you need to recap all the content.
Okay.
But maybe the students can just look at each slide for a second.
This one is important. So the components of a strong resume. So there are a lot of bullets on this page. So I'll leave it here for a second, just so that you can take a look at it. That's Great. Where I have that avoid industry specific jargon.
Perfect. And maybe while we'll put this slide up for a second, and maybe I can read out a couple more questions.
Yeah.
That are in the chat. Pedro is asking, countries have different names for different academic degrees. And should we just translate it in our resume or put an equivalent degree from that other country?
I would say it depends on the country you're applying to. So if you are coming from a program in Germany, say, where it's a combined undergraduate and master's program where everyone graduates with both degrees, I would probably just call it a combined undergraduate and master's program, because outside of Germany, that's less common. So in the United States, if you're applying to jobs in the States, it is undergrad and then graduate. And then if you're getting a professional degree or a certificate, you basically just want to spell out the level of education that you have achieved. And then people can ask clarifying questions if they need more help understanding what it means.
Great. That sounds good. Wajahat is asking about kind of representing success on your resume. So his question is, in the certifications and participation section, usually we participate in many curricular competitions. We may not win all of them, but should we add all of them in our resume or only the ones that we have won?
I would probably do the ones that are most significant for you and that you most want to talk about, because anything that's on your resume is fair game in an interview. So if you are in 30 competitions a year, you can say that, participated in 30 competitions. One to highlight is winning X. So you can pick your favorites, but share that you've also done quite a few.
Great. There's a lot of comments also about loving dogs. So
I'm so sorry. She is the most annoying part about working from home. I have no way of stopping my puppy from barking. So, all right, let me go over the next slide just so you can keep an eye on that while I continue to answer questions. So typos and errors, huge. And then that's an example of the action verbs. So you can see how you can make your statements more powerful.
Great. Does anyone, if you have any questions on the slide that is up right now that may be most relevant to ask right now? Otherwise, we also do have a lot of aesthetic questions, I guess, on a format. So maybe those are some things we can save towards the end when you pull up the template.
Sure.
Great. So if you have questions about how your resume should look, like how many bullet points or what font you should use, we will get to that soon.
Yes. So I'll give you a few examples. These are the ones I was walking through. When you let me know, none of the slides have been advancing. So this is just to show okay versus better. And again, the big difference here is putting a number on it so that people understand the scale and scope of your role. And then I've got another example here. So it kind of professionalizes the work that you did and gives people an understanding of all the tasks that you're responsible for.
Yes, definitely. I think this is something that is also very relevant to many of our students. So part of the goal of Crossroads is to provide opportunities to students who haven't had many professional or academic opportunities in their history of education. So, many students, in the room today have never had an internship or haven't had the opportunity to kind of participate in like curricular competitions or do many different extracurriculars. And so what advice would you have for them on preparing content for your resume?
A lot of it could be around your daily responsibilities. So if you are helping take care of family members and that's part of what your time is, then you would want to give that context probably in something like a cover letter, where you are helping the reader understand that while contributing to your family's income, you are also going to school and working. So you can kind of help give that context in a cover letter. In your resume, it really does need to be a lot around the tasks that you did. So if you have absolutely no work experience at all, that's a little trickier. Tiara, is that the question? If there's no work experience?
Yes, if there's no work experience or like a limited kind of extracurricular experience.
That's trickier. That's trickier. So I feel like the closest I've come to handling this is with some of my stay-at-home parents that are trying to quantify the work that they've done for their family in terms of managing the household, managing the budget, getting the kids to school. So we've kind of massaged that responsibility underneath their their stay-at-home time. So I feel like that's probably the closest I have. And it still gets down to results and scale so that you can help the reader see your responsibilities while you were going to school, for instance.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. I'm sure maybe we can go to the next slide and
Yeah,
you can
I have
keep
one
moving.
more. And again, this is just, if you use words like redesigned or improved, you just want to say how. So this is typically where you can give some sort of result, and that your work not only made things better, it made systems better by whatever. So it's again, just putting a number on it. I think that was my last one for content. Then I can bring up the template. All right, so this is a Harvard Business School thing. We have a template that we like. We like that it's one page. We like that it's clean. We like that it has a lot of white space. So white space is something on the page that doesn't have words, so that when the reader looks at it, they're not overwhelmed. You have to assume that anyone looking at your resume is a little bit lazy and is going to skip to some of the things that are in bold or some of your bullets. So you want to make sure that the lazy reader is looking at what you want them to look at. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing this and bring up a resume so that you can see what I mean. And this template I built for you guys so that when I share it with you in Word, you can use this as your own and modify the bullets for the experiences that you've had. So for instance, I'm starting it off under education, and you can put the right dates in there for how long you've been in the program. But I put the Crossroads Emerging Leaders program under education because it's something that is going to be relevant in that section and is something that you want to highlight. Then if you do have any other degrees, it would go basically in reverse chronological order. So Crossroads is the thing you're doing now. If you are expecting any kind of university degree or you already have one, that would go next. And then if you did want to include anything that you did before university or community college, if you wanted to include anything in secondary school, that would go last under education. And then you start getting into experience. Now, one thing I will say is whatever you've done most recently is what goes on top of the resume. So if you graduated from university 5 years ago and you've been working for those 5 years, experience is what's going to go at the top because that's going to be most relevant now. So that's where we start to put in those bullets and use those action verbs. If you have any kind of metrics at all, you're going to put them in there. What I would want to make sure you do is never have more than 5 bullets under one experience. The reader tends to go over those too quickly and then they get lost. So in general, for a full-time experience, if you have more bullets than 5, then you probably want to break it out by the different types of tasks you were doing, so that if you did have customer service, then you could have a few bullets under that. If you had teamwork, you could have a few bullets under that, but you do want to try and break it out. And then I'm going to get into the skills, languages, community, and personal. So this is where you put your interesting stuff. This is where it's, for skills, if you do have anything and you want to make sure your periods are consistent, you want to make sure you're highlighting anything that you have that would be relevant to that employer. So if you are applying to something and it says you need to have Google Analytics exposure or HTML experience, this is where you would put it. Any kind of languages that you are either completely fluent in or conversant, you want those on your resume as well. For community, this is where you can put any kind of volunteer work, church work, mentorship. This is where you want to highlight that. And then personal is the interesting part. That's where someone can look at this and say, oh, wow, you're a runner. Tell me your last interesting run. And that's a nice way to open up an interview, and it kind of gets you relaxed. It's an easy way to start a conversation so that you're not stressed right off the bat. So these are just examples that you can use, and you can modify this however you see fit, but you'll notice there's a lot of white space here, so that it really does highlight the important things that you've worked on. It's totally fine if it fills up the entire page, for sure. And you can have it so that there's only one space in between each of these, but you do want to still preserve some of that white around the words. Tiara.
Sorry about that. So thank you, Kristen. The virtual template is very, very useful, I think. And I know many of you are still having are having questions about the aesthetics of your resume. So how does it look? So again, just to make sure, because I know this is on some of your minds, your resume should be one page only.
One page.
Like
You are
Kristen
too
said,
young for 2 pages.
yes. I think Kristen mentioned if you're under 40, please keep your resume to one page. Students are also asking about font, if that's something you could go over, and font size, which I know you have mentioned, but maybe
I mean, we have a standard template of Times New Roman 10-point font. I mean, we are rigid with our format, but you can do whatever you want. I've gotten lots of creative resumes from people that are laid out completely differently. So depending on the field that you go into, this is kind of a business resume. So for students that are going into creative fields like design or marketing, you can go nuts and do any kind of template that you want and make it pretty and use all sorts of different colors and fonts to show your individuality.
Great, thank you. And then another question, unless you have more to say on this template, one question that is coming up is that as part of Crossroads, the students have all earned certifications for courses completed on Harvard X. Could you maybe describe how they should represent that kind of certification on their resume?
So for Harvard, you know what, I'll put that in. When I send this out to you guys, I'll put in the Harvard X section of certifications. It would be under probably Crossroads, and then you could say certifications in, and then you'll list out the different ones that you have, but I'll include that in the template that I send out to you.
Great.
Let me write that
So
down.
just,
I forget.
thank you. Just to recap for those of you who are wondering about how to represent your coursework or your certifications on your resume, Kristen will send over a template, a resume template that we will share with you that shows you how to include the Harvard X certification on your resume. Great. Another question that is coming up is for students who have less work experience, is how they can which kind of goes along with what you were just saying, how can they package projects that they've done in university to present on their resume?
So if the projects were 100% academic in nature, then for this student, for instance, I would put them under Howard University. So I would say Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, expected 2022, projects in multiple areas, including, and then I would list out the different projects that you did. So you can put a lot more color underneath the university depending on the experience that you have there.
Great, thank you.
So maybe I'll do some examples of that too.
Really, really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Another question that students have is kind of, I think, maybe something that you will maybe be touching on in Friday's session. So, if you have questions about kind of personal statement and personal branding, those are things that we will be talking about in Friday's session, which many of you have information on already. But there is a question on if at the top of the resume, students should provide kind of an objective or some kind of self-summary to outline their goals and ambitions.
Yeah, that one, that's a choice. So even among the Harvard Business School coaches, there's about 50 of us. We're split 50-50 on whether or not we like the personal statement. I think it's a waste of space personally, and kind of boxes you into a corner for a certain role, when at this point in your life, you should be pretty open to opportunities. I think later on, as you've got years and years experience, and now I let you onto 2 pages of a resume, then maybe you can take the space to do a personal statement. But I'd say at this point in your career, it's better to be more open to opportunities.
Great. That is very helpful. Do you have anything more to add, or should I keep running through questions?
No, keep going. Do we want to
Okay.
do some of the hand raises, since
Yeah, sure. That's a great idea.
Gabriel's been up for, you were first.
All right, go ahead. Gabriel, if you're able to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'd like to know if I should add familiar involvement in my resume.
All right, say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. I would like to know if I should add familiar involvement in my resume.
Familiar. I'm missing the question, Tiara. Are you able to catch it?
I think, Gabriel, you broke up a little bit. If you're able to repeat it one more time or type it in
Or
the
maybe
chat.
try the chat. Yeah, because I'm not catching the question.
Yeah, I'm gonna try say it again. And if it doesn't work, I'm gonna type on chat.
Okay.
I want to know if I should add familiar involvement in my resume, like if I worked with my family or something like that.
Oh, yes. So if you are working in terms of supporting the household, so taking care of siblings, helping with family income and managing the budget, and that is your experience, that's what you're able to do, then yes, you would want to put that under experience and how you are supporting your family.
Okay, thank you so much.
Brandon, I had you next.
Thank you. I will mute myself. Well, I have a question. What happens if we have an incomplete undergraduate program? For example, I studied a bachelor in law, but then I stopped the degree and now I'm studying public policy. Should I include that undergrad program too, or shouldn't I include it?
I mean, I think you can include any education that you've completed. So if you completed 2 years of coursework in law, I would say that completed 2 years of coursework in law, and then say expected degree in whatever your new field is, with the expected date. Because it'll be on your transcript anyway, if somebody ever requests your transcript. Okay. Ahmad, I had you next.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
I actually have 2 small questions. The first one, I've got a fully funded scholarship from the US named USAID USP University Scholarship Program. Where should I put that?
Normally, I would either put that under the program that you're applying it to. So let's say you were using that to help fund your undergraduate education, then I would say received blah, blah, blah fellowship. And if you wanted to say a little bit more about the award, that's also appropriate and could go under your undergraduate experience.
Okay. For the second question, I did like a lot of volunteering activities. I've been in university clubs. I did my community service project. How am I supposed to put all of that? Or should I put only the important ones?
You want to put the important ones, but I'm going to include some club experiences under the undergraduate template when I send that out. You want to include things that either show leadership or show interest in the area that you're going to be applying to. So if your degree is in marketing and you're a member of the tech club and you're applying to tech firms like Google, then you want to make sure you have the tech club on there too, because it shows an interest in the field that you're applying to. All right, Yasmin.
Thank you so much.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for this session. It's really useful. My question is, when I was in the university, I did a lot of things relevant or irrelevant to my specialization, which is psychology, and to discover what I really interested in. So my question, how could I include that even if I didn't have a work experience? So I felt that it was part of my journey. I want to show it, and I have a sport interest. So I felt it's helped to show who I am. So I want to reflect that on my resume, but I don't know why, how, you know?
Well, I think you have two choices. So you can certainly list it as all of the different things that you were involved in under university, or you could include them under community or personal down at the bottom. So let's say you were in a club that is just expanding your horizons and has nothing to do with your professional degree. That's interesting. So if you have it under personal, you're showing that it's important to you. It's something that can be part of the conversation, but it's not academic. So you don't need to have it under university.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. And then Zane, I don't know how to say, if I'm saying that properly.
Yes. I have a little question. I just wanted to ask, like, another person asked before me, that if I have a lot of experiences from my high school and now I'm in the freshman of my college, so should I add all of the past experiences from my high school, or should I add a few of them from my college right now?
You definitely want to have some of the college experiences, but you don't want to lose the work that you did in high school. So especially if you were working throughout high school while getting your degree, you want to make sure you show the hustle that you had to work and go to school at the same time. So I would probably shorten it so that you're only picking a few of the things that are on your results, but I would still include it. All right, Rebecca.
Just quickly, I want to just quickly interject before, Rebecca, we get to your question. So I know that about 20 of you have your hands up right now. I think some of you will be asking the same questions, and some of you may also have questions that we have answered in the chat. So please just keep that in mind, so that we, we will do our best, but we will not be able to get to all of the questions that are being asked right now. But I think something that is coming up, and again, just so that we can be clear, is that I think students are trying to balance relaying all of their experiences versus keeping the resume to one page. So one student asked if we add more than 10 skills in the skills section, is that useful? And another student asked, how can we make the trade-off between using longer sentences to quantify achievements versus keeping the resume to one page? So maybe, Kristen, you can reiterate the efficacy of brevity.
Yes. So let me start with the skills question. If those 10 skills are all directly relevant to the job that you're applying to, for instance, if you're using computer programming languages and you know that many, I would actually include all of them. If you are including skills that are very common and all applicants are likely to have them, I would probably pick the ones that are a little bit more, that set you apart. So, like Microsoft Access is one of the easier databases to learn how to use. If you know R or SQL, put those on, because those are harder than Access. So for instance, that I would pick the tougher skills. For the one page, I know this is the hardest thing for students to wrap their heads around. It is not a litany of everything that you've done in your life. It is the most important stuff that is relevant to the job that you're applying to now, or the master's program that you're applying to. So pick the things that are most important. And it's more than fine for the bullets to be more than one line. It's just meant to pick the best bullets. That's kind of the goal. So as you look at all of them and you say, which ones are my best? If I had to drop some, what would I drop? Drop those and keep the ones that are more relevant. I'll just stop share so I can see more of your faces. Okay. All right, Rebecca.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So if everyone is using the same template, what can we do to stand out to the recruiter? Do you think it depends on the area or the experience?
I mean, it really is the content. So, all 900 of my students use the same template. And the reason is to make it easier on our recruiters to look through the content, because the template should just sort of fall into the background. So if you're applying to a professional job now, then the experience section is going to be most important. If you're applying to an academic program, then if you have any research work or problem solving, that's what you're going to want to highlight. So it very much depends on what your next step is, but that's what you highlight. Philippe? Or Felipe?
Good morning. Thanks for this session. I have a question related to experience. If your experience is an assistantship, I mean, I work as a teacher's assistant,
yeah.
Do you recommend putting the content of the course in which we helped, or the tasks that we did as an assistant? Because all the assistants do practically the same, but I don't know if you want to know about the course in which I helped. So I don't know what could be more important to put in the resume.
Yeah, I would say if you're an assistant in any course, you want to write out what the course is, just so that the reader understands the type of work you would be doing. And then I think listing the relevant experiences, so that you were helping with problem sets, tutoring students, grading exams, you would want to include all that, because assistantships can vary by university. Okay. All right, Zersh.
Hello, Kristen. Hello, Tiara. Hello, everyone. So I have two questions, but the first one is, for example, I have had a lot of opportunities and have participated in a lot of contests and won a bunch of things, but that was in my primary school. So now that I'm an undergrad, when I'm applying to places that are relevant, it feels a little weird to mention those things because I feel like they're outdated. So basically wanted to ask, do you think there is a certain time limit to what we should mention according to our achievements, like 3 years back, 4 years back, or should we mention it regardless?
I would say it's relevant to keep primary achievements on until you graduate from college. So once you've finished your degree and you're applying for professional roles, you're probably going to need the space on your resume to start listing more professional experiences. So until you need the space, go ahead and keep it on there. And that's kind of the rule of thumb that we use for our students as well, is if you feel like your resume is starting to expand beyond that one page, what's the older stuff that you can either shorten or take off? So no one that graduates from the Harvard Business School tends to list their primary education, because that's been at least 10 years. So it's just too long ago.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's mainly because I haven't had a lot of experiences, internship, stuff like that. Like I'm trying to get them right now.
So leave it on, because then you have space.
So the other question was that you mentioned kind of using it up when you're writing the things that you've done, mentioning action words, stuff like that. I, for one, tend to have a lot of feelings related to the imposter syndrome. So whenever I'm writing stuff down, I tend to overthink a lot about my achievements. So would you recommend something related to that?
So on Friday, if you're able to join us, I'm actually going to be doing an exercise on signature skills and your superpower. So it's going to try and shake off that imposter syndrome that we all carry within us, to say, this is what I'm good at. I'm going to own it. I'm going to stand in Superman pose and be amazing, because I am. So on Friday, we'll work on that. All right, Sonika.
Hello, I'm audible.
I can hear you.
Firstly, nice to meet you. My question was, though we are mentioning experience so many times, but since I am in my second year of education, undergraduation. I haven't completed anything right now. So like I really like to give tuitions to higher secondary students. So would it be counted as a consideration in my experience, or would it come in under other things like a leadership quality or something like that? So what would it be considered at?
I mean, I think you can still include leadership elements from secondary education while you have space. So if at university you haven't had as much experience, keep the
Correct.
primary, secondary on there.
Yeah, and one more thing, currently I'm doing some projects from my college. So can I mention those in my, I mean, in experiences, or would it be mentioned again the same thing? Where can I
Yeah.
mention those things?
I think if your work, if it's something you're getting paid for, it always comes under experience. If it's something that you're either getting academic training for or you're volunteering for, you have a choice. You can put it under experience if you feel like you need to build that section up, or you can put it under academic.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Kudzai, and please correct me if I'm getting any of these wrong.
Kudzai, are you able to unmute yourself? There you go. I think we should be able to hear you. All right. Kudzai, if you want to enter your question in the chat, we will definitely take it. I don't think we can hear you right now. I also want to be cognizant of time as we continue to move forward. So I think maybe Kristen, 1 or 2 more questions just to wrap the session up. But before that, again, like Kristen said, maybe you can plug a little bit more of what you will be talking about on Friday.
Absolutely. So one thing I'll do, first and foremost is expand the template based on some of your questions. So Tiara, if you're able to send me the transcript, I can go back through the questions and make sure I put some of those elements into the template so I can answer as I go. Because I see some questions in there on working through your education, how to handle associate's degree. So I will put those examples in. So you've got that. On Friday, what I really want to spend time on is what makes you special and what your signature skill is and how you will bring that to this next opportunity that you're working towards. So we're going to spend some time on both your interests, your skills and abilities, and get that in a little bit more of a succinct format so that you have your elevator pitch and the way that you're going to be promoting yourself going forward. So I think if the internet can handle it, I would like to be able to do breakout groups on Friday to let you practice. I'll give you some templates to almost fill in the blank until you get comfortable saying what you're good at and saying why they should hire you. But it's great to be able to practice this with peers. It'll be awkward. That's okay. I would rather have you be awkward with peers than awkward with an employer. So hopefully on Friday we can do some breakouts and get you all practicing.
Great, thank you. So on Friday, Kristen will be leading a session at 10 a.m. Boston time, same time as today. And you can ask questions about, many of you have questions about building your personal brand and how to share what you're good at. And those questions will be answered there. It is the second part of the skill building workshop. And then we have a couple more skill building workshops scheduled for the end of June. So please keep your eye out for that. I hope you all have gained a lot of information today. Based on time, we'll take 1 question or 2 more questions. But thank you all so much for taking the initiative to show up today. Some of you may have to leave for class. So it was really great to meet you all and see your beautiful faces, and hope to see them again on Friday. Thank you. And we will just take 1 or 2 more questions as we wrap.
I feel like Lucky had a hand up for a long time. It kind of changed in my order, but I know it was up for a long time. I don't know if Lucky's still there.
I think, yes, Lucky. Please go ahead.
Yes, hello, good evening. Actually, I'm from India.
Hello.
Okay, my first question is, can we add a little image of ourselves on top of resume?
I'm sorry, can you have an image?
Yes, a personal image, a passport size image of ourselves.
On your CV, you mean?
Yes, yes, on CV.
Yeah. So that, again, is country dependent. You would never include that in the United States, but outside of the United States, very common.
Okay, one more question that I have some achievements, state level and national level achievements. So in which section should I have to include in experience
You could
section?
also include an awards section. So if you have so many achievements and awards that you want to make sure you pull out, you can certainly put them under university or secondary experience, or you can have a whole awards section. But I tend to prefer that you put the awards in kind of the time of life that you achieved them. And then it helps the reader understand, oh, okay, this is roughly what, how old you were when you achieved these awards.
Great. So it is 10:55 here, so we'll take one more question, Kristen, if that sounds okay with you.
Okay, and then next in my order, Rancy? How do I say your name?
Yes, Ramsey. Hi everyone. I just got a question. What about my GPA? Can I include it on the resume? Is that important?
It depends. So I think if you're applying to jobs in professional services like finance and consulting, they'll ask anyway, so you can certainly include it. But it's something that is going to be on the application for any company that cares about your GPA. So if it's really good, if you've got a 4.0, for instance, go ahead, throw it on there and be proud. Or you can just, once you've graduated, say magna cum laude with honors, however you want to represent your achievement.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So Tiara, I will modify the template and send it to you so that you can get it out to all the participants along with the slides. And then on Friday, we get to practice. So if you do not want to talk on Friday, I will give you ample time to log off before I put you in breakout groups. But in general, it's going to be a talking session. So be ready to practice.
Great.
And we will share the template.
Thank you so much, Kristen. So just to reiterate, we will be sharing a template based on all of your questions today for your resume that you can build your resume on. And on Friday, many, many more of your questions about representing yourself and how to talk about your strengths will be answered as well. We're really, really excited for the skill building workshop, and thank you so much to the Career Services and Professional Development Office at Harvard Business School for joining us, and especially to Kristen for hosting us today's session. It will be available to Crossroads students in a recording. So if you have questions about that, you can rewatch this recording at a later time. Looking forward to seeing you all on Friday. Good night to some of you. Excited for you to join us on Friday.
All right. See you Friday.
Kristen. I will keep the chat open for 1 or 2 more minutes. Just if anyone has any questions or wants to wrap up together. But Kristen, please feel free to.
Right. Thanks, Tiara. I will await the chat transcript.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm seeing the chat slowing down. So please, Zara, your comment is very funny. But thank you for everyone for joining and excited to see you all on Friday. We're going to close the session now just to be considerate of everyone's time. But thank you so much for joining. And if you have questions about Crossroads, I want to encourage you to email us or message us on social media. We do get back to students very quickly through there. So I would love to encourage you all to do that and focus on the content of these sessions during these sessions. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Yash, I see your question. I am happy to take it. But again, this is the last question we'll be taking.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
So I have a question, like, is there any particular session on interview, like we have to appear for interview exam for semi-finalists? So is there any particular session on that?
That's a really good question. Thank you for bringing that up. We can organize a session on interview preparation if that would be helpful for all of you.
And like for earlier exam in MTAT, we were like, there's a distinct genre like questions like quantitative, verbal. In interview, do you have any insight of to what extent they will gonna ask our personal experience, like personal questions or professional, or to what type of question they're gonna ask?
Yes, I guess the goal of the interview is to kind of get a sense of you beyond, you know, the paper that is your resume or your transcript. So in the interview, I think the most important thing is that we would love to get a sense of your passions and what gets you excited. So you will be sharing some information about your personal, academic, and professional history in that regard. Yash, I am, oh, go ahead.
And regarding this submittable website, like my website still ain't showing the like place where I have to upload my LOR, SOP and everything in the transcript. Am I audible?
Yet showing the form, please give it around 24 hours. It does take a bit of time. So please be patient. All right, everyone, it is the close of the session. So just want to say thank you everyone for joining. If you have more questions, please message us on social media or email us. It'd be the best way to get a response that is curated to your specific situation. Thank you.